Hey everybody, I am Jake Failing, Vice President of Marketing for Movement Mortgage, and today I have a special guest with me, Rob Chrisman. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
So we are here at Old Meck Brewery in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I know Charlotte is not home for you, so what brought you to Charlotte today?
I'm giving a speech to the local mortgage bankers this evening. It's supposed to be a discussion. Could turn into a speech, or maybe it's a speech that turns into a discussion, but it's just a get-together of the local group. I've been here before, and I'm back to do another one.
I know you said before we started recording, you say, look, I'm a capital markets guy, all right? So, I mean, financial services, big presence here in the Queen City. So how often do you come to Charlotte?
Not very often.
Okay.
And in fact, if you look at things to do on a rainy day in Charlotte, there's not a lot going on.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is a big tourist destination or not, but I don't think so. You know, like the Billy Graham Museum is number one on everyone's list. Not that I have anything against Billy Graham, but there's not a lot going on besides financial services and banking apparently. NASCAR Museum.
The NASCAR Museum.
I'm a bit of a fan.
Now I feel like I've got to justify Charlotte to you. Now I feel like I got to list all the places. But
I'm ready.
breweries are actually one of our things, so I think it's fitting that you're here.
I think there are more breweries here than anywhere else in the United States.
It's something insane like that, and it just keeps growing. I feel like one pops up each week. All right, so that's why you're here. We are honored to have you on the podcast. But what I hope today is to just talk a little bit about your career, find out more about you, because I feel like, say we wake up to the email every morning. I wake up with Rob Chrisman every morning. We all check our inboxes. I remember when I joined Movement back at the end of 2016. That was one of the first things that someone said to me is like, you got to subscribe to the email. And that was one of the first things I did. It's an unbelievable source of information. And then we've obviously built a relationship with you digitally over the years, and now here you are in person. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your career and how you got to the point now where you're sort of like the industry thought leader.
Well, don't use that term.
You got it.
No industry thought leader.
All right.
There are thousands of thought leaders, I think, in the industry, and I think that everybody has something to contribute. I just kind of put a face on it or a voice to it. So my career, I mean, how far back you want to go? Like, I was picking prunes in the Santa Clara Valley when I was 10 years old.
Let's start there for sure. Picking prunes, I love that.
Working in a cannery with my dad growing up. I graduated from college in 1982 and went to work for Safeway in a milk plant and an ice cream plant in the management training program, and found out that was not quite what I wanted. So my mom said, you've always been interested in business and real estate. Why don't you get an MBA? Why don't you go back and get a master's in business? And so I applied to UC Berkeley and got accepted. And then it's a 2-year program. And between my first and second year, I saw a little thing on a bulletin board back when they had bulletin boards with pins.
Sure.
And it said California Mortgage Banking Internship Program. And I'm like, California Mortgage Banking. So I applied and got accepted, and then found out what a mortgage bank was. And so that was 1985. Graduated in 86. Stayed working for that company, First California Mortgage, doing secondary marketing, and then went to work and became a partner at a company called Tuttle & Company, which was the first risk management pipeline hedging company. And I've been in the business ever since. And a lot of people identify me with the commentary that they receive, and I hear all kinds of stories about where people are when they read it every day, or what they're doing when they read it, or all kinds of, I won't go into the graphic details.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is that back when I was being account manager, accounts would call up every day at a certain time, and we would tell them what's going on with the market. And then I inevitably got hired away and did other things and worked for private lenders, and the president or the owner would say, hey, I hear you send this thing out, can you send it out to my loan officers? And I'd say, yeah, sure.
And so who were you sending it to before that?
I'd go to my accounts, so then when I changed a job, people from my old job would write to me and say, hey, I know we don't work together anymore, but can you keep sending me your thing? And I would say, sure. And so then I skipped a little bit between jobs, but continued to send it out, and then it grew, and that was up until 2008.
So if we just pause there, so like I've got a journalism background, you don't. Like you're a finance guy,
Au
right?
contraire.
Okay.
In 7th grade, I was a reporter for the Cougar Chronicles. In my
Shout
junior
out to
high.
the Coug, the Cougar Chronicles. Yes.
Yes.
All right. So
Mr.
you were.
Stevens.
So sorry. You were a journalist. I
No.
apologize, Rob. Yeah. Okay. So you've
No.
got a storied background in writing. But no, in all seriousness, I remember that was one of the first things when we were talking to you, or I think it's someone that works with you, was just like, hey, I know that
Read
there's
this.
part of I know that there's part of this that you run. Sometimes you run advertisements. There's some commentary. All this kind of and he's like, I'm not a journalist. Like he is not a journalist.
I'm not a journalist. I think that back in, as I was going to say, in 2008, when
Yeah.
I was just sending this thing to a couple hundred people or whatever it was, and I decided to retire from the industry, but I kept sending this daily commentary out, and it's because I enjoy doing it. It's not because I'm a journalist and I want to report on the news. And in fact, as my commentary started to gain momentum, a lot of the more traditional news sources took offense, shall we say. I'm not going to say I was a disruptor, but if somebody is putting out news and they are charging a subscription for it, and I'm putting something out that's free only because I like enjoying it,
That's a disruptor. Yeah.
and they didn't like that, and still don't like it to some extent, perhaps. I don't know. I think we all kind of get along, but I send this out for free because I enjoy helping people.
Sure.
And for me, if I can help one loan officer help a borrower, or if I can help one vendor help a client, that makes it worthwhile. So.
Well, look, you're standing across from one right now that you
Journalist
helped. Journalism major turned financial services marketer. Yes. So in all seriousness, your commentary, your emails have definitely helped in that transition. But when I don't know if it was 2008 that was sort of the tipping point. But when did you realize, hey, I'm no longer retired anymore, or do you still see it as this is just fun, or now it's like, hey, this is my second chapter, like this is my second career?
I view it as fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing it. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy thinking that I am helping educate people about the industry.
Sure.
Because after 2008, the industry really took it on the chin as far as public relations and dealing with some of the issues that were brought up back then. I tell people that when I stop enjoying doing it, they just won't get it in their mailbox the next day. But I don't see that happening because there's this old saying about if you enjoy doing something, do it and the money will follow. I was never in it for the money. Still not in it for the money per se. It's a free commentary I send out. Anybody can take it. People who are unemployed subscribe, retired people subscribe, people in Congress subscribe. I mean, the range of people who look at it to one degree or another is very wide.
Sure.
And the fact that they can learn something or find a job or find a service, I like thinking about that way. And I think that if anything has changed about it, it's the fact that I really used to be able to interject sarcastic comments or
That's my
opinion
favorite
or-
part, Rob.
Well, but now when I do that, I don't want to deal with the emails that I receive the rest of the day about, oh, you shouldn't say that, or you've lost your moral compass, or why do you say that? Because people read what you write.
You don't
So-
seem like a guy that would care that much. Does it get to you? Do the
Oh, sure.
internet trolls and all
Oh,
that?
sure.
All right. You're human.
Yeah, believe it or not, human. No, it's an issue.
No, believe me, I can believe certainly that it is an issue. Maybe what has been maybe the biggest surprise that you've learned along the way in doing it, whether it's how much people like it or maybe how much the internet trolls and responses are a big part of it, or maybe the thing that sort of brings you the most joy? Any maybe specific stories of people that have read it over the years and have gone on to certain things in the industry?
Well, there's certainly that. I think that one of the things that I found out over the years is how much we all have in common, because when I look at the wide range, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, of readers, from CEOs and regulators and people in politics all the way to retired people or unemployed people or students write to me, like from overseas, they read this. And so the commentary has to appeal to some common level, and I think that there's a lot of commonality in the residential lending industry that I found out throughout the years of doing this, and I think that it's neat because we as an industry are helping millions of borrowers every year. And I think that fact is lost in the mainstream press because this is a great business.
Right.
This is a great business. We help families, we help individuals, we help people save money, we help them move into homes and school districts. I mean, all kinds of things that we do that get lost in, hearing about a Wells Fargo settlement or a lawsuit or somebody going to jail, whatever it might be. We, through thick and thin, have continued to help families. And that common factor is something that I've learned over the years that I really enjoy. Aside from that, occasionally I will put out an email that, when my dog died, Sweetie. When Sweetie died some years ago, there was I mentioned that and had a little obituary for Sweetie. And I got an overwhelming number of responses. And then last year, I mentioned I had a Saturday commentary dedicated to my dad who passed away, and just his history. And I received thousands of responses, and I responded to each one. Said thank you.
Did you really?
Yeah, because if somebody takes the time to write to me, I'm going to take the time to write back to them. So I think that it's neat when I'm able to strike a chord and people shared with me their family histories and so forth. So I think it's just kind of the human condition, which I admire and which I enjoy. I know that I'm not sending it out into the void, and I know that some people read it, and some people may read it just for the joke, and others may read it because they're looking for a job. But whatever it is, they like it, and I like doing it, so it's a win-win situation.
What's interesting to me is we talk, you probably hear this too, content is such a buzzword. Got to get content out for loan officers that are trying to build their brand, get content out. I'm curious, like you were invited to this speaking event today based on your career and based on what you've built with your emails. But you're also very much in my world as a marketer. I mean, like you are a shining example of someone who, if you put out really valuable, consistent content that brings value to people, your brand can just explode exponentially. And I know you probably don't walk around talking about your personal brand, but do you ever get approached sort of by like the marketers of the world to say like, hey, could you like do a session with our loan officers about keeping your content consistent, things like that?
Yes.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, so you're like marketer slash.
Well, but I'm not a marketing guy per
Right,
se.
okay.
But I tell people that if I had a business plan, 10, 15 years ago to do this, I probably wouldn't have ended up doing it. But the fact that I just kind of lucked into it because I like doing it is different than a lot of people approach things. But I've learned things throughout I've been in the business 35 years, so I've learned things that can help people. And all the time companies call up and say, hey, can you come talk to our loan officers about what they're doing, and just, well, first of all, about the market, about interest rates, and about what they should be looking for out there, but also about how to add value, because in the current environment, everyone loves to talk about technology, and something that gets lost is the interpersonal connection that loan officers have with their borrowers. You're standing in line at Starbucks and you strike up a conversation with the person behind you, and suddenly you're refinancing their loan. That's because of that personal connection. And I think that in all the talk about technology is something that gets forgotten. It's something that really loan officers and companies that have loan officers need to keep reminding them and keep honing that skill, because it is a skill. So, yeah, I think the personal touch matters a lot in lending.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of these speaking events like this? When we were emailing back and forth before this, we were saying like, how are we going to recognize each other when we walk into Old Mac? And Rob described himself and with the biting wit that he uses in his emails. But then I said, look, I'm the tall, obnoxious hair guy, which people know me. I'm out on movement videos, all kinds of stuff. But like, But like for you, you're known by the email. You're known by the commentary, by the words. So I'm just curious, like, can people find you on the conference circuit? Do you speak a lot? Like, how do we find you, the person, not just the email?
I'm an email away. I'm literally an email away. It's as simple as that. Like I said, I read my emails and respond to them, and sometimes people ask me, do you have people who read your emails and respond and pretend they're you? And I say, no, I don't want that.
Right.
Some people ask me if my cat Myrtle is real, which she is.
I mean, this is
happy to
hard-hitting
say.
headline news, everybody, all right?
Hard-hitting journalism. People request photos of Myrtle, so I send them a picture of Myrtle. And so, yeah, Myrtle has occasionally she opines about the CFPB and other things that are going on out there. So yeah, I'm just an email away, and you know, it's pretty cut and dry. People will write, you know, with regard to speaking engagements or capital markets consulting that I do also. They'll just send me an email and say, hey, we're having a sales meeting in, you know, Dallas on June 8th. Do you want to come speak? And I'll say, yeah, I'm available, and here's the deal. And they'll say yay or nay. Pretty easy. I'm not a complicated guy.
Well, we jumped at the opportunity to come meet you, and I appreciate you giving us a few minutes. I just want to wrap with one thing. So what's next for you for 2020? I'm not going to ask you for any crazy predictions or anything, but like what you put out every day, the commentary. I mean, do you have a plan for the email, a plan for the commentary?
No, I'm just a simple guy. I'm just going to keep doing what I
tried.
keep doing what I do and what I like doing, and the more I travel, the more really neat people that are in the industry that I get a chance to meet and spend time with, and I enjoy doing that. So I'm just going to keep on keeping on, as they say.
I love it. Well, we've got some folks off camera here, and I know all of us were super excited to get to meet you, and I really appreciate you taking some time today. Thank you very much.
You bet. Anytime.